Hey everyone, so this is a follow-up to the video I posted yesterday. I mentioned that I was working on a modified Endless Runner game that, in addition to being an Endless Runner, it also had some other functionality as well, a little bit of a top-down shooter, some boss battles, kind of Endless Runner Plus, if you will. And so anyways, I kept working on it. I know, shocking, I worked on the same project 2 days in a row. And I worked on the boss battle, so I figured I would go through that and show you how you can make a boss battle for an Endless Runner. And again, we said that an Endless Runner, you could argue, is derivative of the old type of auto scrollers like in arcade games. So a lot of this would apply to those types of games as well. It doesn't have to be just an Endless Runner. So let's take a quick look at the battle, and then I'll show you how I did it. So there is the dropping of a mine, which does damage to you if you collide with it, and then the shooting of a laser, which does damage if it hits you. So went down by 20 points, hit the mine, went down by 10 points. Okay, so collisions are working, and the object disappears when it collides. Now let's see if we can avoid them. So we're going to roll, and we did not take damage. We're going to jump, and we did not take damage. So perfect. If we are doing the proper evasion, we do not take damage. So we'll do it one more time. We'll roll, no damage, jump, damage. Great. And at the top, as you can see, he just keeps moving between the lanes. Nothing really complex. I just make sure he goes to every lane. All right, so how did I do this? Let's look at the drone first. So how to control him traveling between the lanes, I kind of used a bit of an overkill. I created an array, and the array contains the velocity. So if you notice here, it's just -3, 3, -3, -3, and it's not a coincidence that they're sequential. Or should I say that they're repeating, excuse me. So when it reaches one extreme, it's going to travel to the middle and then the other extreme. So if it starts on the left, it goes to the middle and then goes to the right. So this brings it to the left, this brings it to the middle, this brings it to the right. Okay, so why does that bring it to the middle and to the right? Because the center of each lane is -3, 0, and 3, and you want it to be centered on the lane. And if you want it to move between lanes with 1 second, in other words, it takes 1 second to do a lane change, then that is the number you'd have to use, because the way velocity works in Unity is a number of 1, okay, an increment of 1 is 1 Unity unit per second. So I said that the middle here is 0, this is -3. So if I want to move 3 over in 1 second, it therefore has to be a -3. So you'd use a velocity of -3 on x, and after 1 second, you would then set it to 0. So that's all this is saying. It's saying move -3, and then I'll show you how it then sets to 0. Move +3. It sets the velocity back to 0, waits, move +3. Okay, you're all the way to the right. Now go back to the left. And because I did it this way, and again, this is really overkill, I could have just done randomization with a couple of checks to make sure you're not all the way to the left or the way to the right. This does allow you to choreograph this. So if for some reason he had to move into exact lanes because you have things spawning and you don't want him to be hit by those things, then you could choreograph it. So there's plus and minuses to this. It's a bit overkill, but again, it lets you choreograph this. Here's the laser object and the mine object. So there are two more variables attached to this script, and those are right here, the laser object and the mine object. And unsurprisingly, we have a box collider, we have a rigid body, and a script. So in other words, even though these are weapons, they're treated just like any other obstacle, and that is they need to be able to detect collisions, they need to have a velocity, and that velocity is controlled by that same move object script. So if we look at the dual laser, same thing. Box collider, rigid body, move object script. Okay, so let's take a look at the script. So here is botcon. This is what controls the drone. So there is the array that we looked at. This simply determines which point in the array we're looking at, because As this says, this is position 0, position 1, position 2, so you need a second variable to say which position you're looking at. That's a laser object, that's the mine object, and this is how many HP the drone has. This simply says start the coroutine, and this is what actually controls the drone. So we wait 2 seconds, we instantiate the mine, so that's the dropping of the mine on the floor. Transform position.x, so we're using the x position of the object the script is attached to, which is the drone. We're going to use the mine's y position, though, because I already have it set to be level on the ground, and then we're just positioning it at 0.5z. It's a constant because he does not move forward and backwards along z. Here's the velocity because, as I said, we take that array position, or the value from that array position, and we apply it to the x vector. So it will be at the beginning -3, then it'll be +3, +3, -3, -3. Okay, so it's just taking that value and dropping it into the velocity. This gets increased by 1, so we keep staying in the on track. But we say if we exceed the 13th position, then go ahead and set it back to 0. Because if you keep going and there's no more positions, you'll get an error and he won't move. So if you're using an array, make sure you never exceed the range. So wait a second, and then again, we stop the velocity. So this is what I was talking about. We're adding a velocity of 3 or -3. We wait a second, and then we stop it. It's like you've moved your 3 unity units, whether it's to the left or the right, you moved your 3 unity units. Now stop. Now, if you want to be really precise, you could add an additional line of code after this that then makes sure that he really is at the x position of -3, 0, or 3. I haven't bothered yet, but sometimes you have to go that extra distance to really make sure it is where you think it is. And then we instantiate the laser. And then we wait a tenth of a second, and then we instantiate the laser again. You could say, well, why do that? Why not have the laser just visually be doubled up? Why shoot it twice? And the answer is simple, because by having it separated into 2 separate objects with 2 separate colliders, if you dodge at the last second, it's possible that you get hit by one but avoid the other. So trying to be forgiving there. So give them a chance to try to get out of the way. And that's it for the drone itself. So very, very simple coding. And even at this, like I said, a lot of it is just waiting, waiting, waiting. And you're seeing very similar concepts repeated. Instantiate, instantiate, instantiate. Okay, so that's the drone. No big reason to really look at the mines, but we will briefly. Again, it uses exactly the same move object script, and it's just it checks to see if the name of the object contains the word laser. The reason why I'm using contains is because when you instantiate a prefab, the object of the name gets the word clone appended to it with parentheses. So if the object is called laser, the instantiated object will be laser parenthesis clone parenthesis. So by doing contains, you can ignore the actual verbiage of laser, and you can just of clone, excuse me. And you could just look for the root laser. And as I've said before, this is not optimized, but in my first pass, I never do. Get component rigid body velocity -6. So basically what this is doing, this controls every single object that the script is attached to. So like all of the objects that get instantiated, because we want them to be all synchronized, we really want them to all have the same speed, unless something is meant to be moving faster, like this is a shot, so it should move faster. This is a zombie stumbling forward, so it should move a little bit faster. Everything else should be synchronized with the speed of the scrolling of the walls and the floor. So yeah, this one script controls the various objects that are being moved. So not the instantiation of them, but the moving of them. Okay, so we looked at the drone, we looked at the mine, we looked at the laser. We can quickly look at the shot. So the shot basically on trigger enter, so this is attached to your shot that you're shooting at the enemy. And if the other name is drone, I don't have to do contains here because this isn't being instantiated. It's already in the scene when the scene starts. So if other dot name is equal to drone, then instantiate an impact, and it's just a particle system. I think I forgot to show you that, so we'll do a quick run again at the end. I don't think I showed the shot colliding with him. And then destroy the shot. So again, this is your shot. If it collides with the drone, it instantiates in a particle system, and then it itself gets destroyed. And then last but not least is your player. So Hero Khan. Not going through the movements because we already talked about those in the other video. I think the movement I discussed with the character is actually called Explorer Girl. It's an asset pack I purchased from the Unity store. So I believe it was the Explorer Girl tutorial. So that was like a week or two ago. If you wish to watch that, that shows you how to do the lane moving. But it's very similar to what I just said about the drone moving, that you're applying a velocity for a fixed amount of time. That way you're in the center of the lane. It's just that it looks for player input rather than being based on time. Okay, so this looks to see, so this is in a trigger area. So on trigger enter. So if the other object that's being collided with contains the word mine, again, it's being instantiated. So I'm trying to ignore where it says clone. So minus 10 HP from the hero, and then put that in the debug log. And if other dot name contains laser, and the tag of the playable character has not been changed to rolling. So this is how I handle collision detection. Well, this is how I ignore collision detection when you're rolling. So because of the collider and the positioning of the objects, it's challenging to get a clean evade. So what you do is a collision is probably still occurring, but this says, well, if a collision occurs, who cares if we have not changed the name of, the tag to rolling. So what that looks like, we will look at the control for just a second. So again, this script is attached to the player, and it is the S button. So right here. So if you press the S key, so this is the rolling animation. As you can see, I got it from Mixamo. That's why it says mixamo.com. By default, it changes that to the name of the animation. GameObject.tag is rolling. So here is our playable character. Starts as untagged. It's changing it to rolling. And then when I'm rolling, if it's something that can be rolled under, we check to make sure. If the tag is rolling, then the collisions are ignored. And that's what this is doing. So that's why I don't put it for the mine, because if you roll into the mine, you should still take damage. You rolled into a mine. The whole idea is you're supposed to either move out of the way or jump. So you would not change the tag because you don't want rolling to make you immune. But if this is something that is considered to be above you that you can roll under, then rolling is considered. So basically a collision is indeed happening, but the code is saying we don't care. So only if the tag of the character is not set to rolling do you do anything, do you take any action. And you can see similar coding. I think I showed you the laser room in the last one. So there were lasers that you jumped over and rolled under. So high is the name of the high laser, obviously. And the same thing, that if the tag is rolling, then it ignores it. So I think that's it. Let's just quickly run through the battle again because I forgot to show you the shot, I believe. And that you just jump, and if you shoot, you can see there are simple particle systems. It's just a simple spherical particle system. And he is taking damage, it's just I'm not displaying it. Kind of like I'm not displaying the damage to, well, I'm displaying it in the console. I just haven't actually hit anything yet. Okay, so that should about do it. I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking the video. Please consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. I typically do videos almost every week depending on how busy my full-time job is. So only have just so much free time. So this is how I spend, what little free time I have. So that should about do it, and please enjoy the rest of your day.